Welcome to Kingdom Training Level 2, the 6 foundational studies to become a disciple. And this is class 2. And we're going to start off with our study thought here. Continuing with our first study thought, in all of our study thoughts are going to be focused on connecting with people. The first study thought was connecting with people through friendships. And we looked at Jesus' example and how he really was a great friend to people and used that to really influence and have an impact on their lives. Today we're going to talk about connecting with people through two ways, through paying attention and through asking great questions. But both of these are really just connecting with people. So let's start off here with connecting with people through paying attention. In fact, in 2000, there was a study that was done, and it looked at and it studied the attention span in humans. And the average attention span of a human was 12 seconds. So it doesn't seem that long, but 12 seconds here. And it's actually gotten worse. They did another study on this in 2012, and they found that the attention span had actually gone down to 8 seconds. Yeah. And what's crazy is the attention of a goldfish is 9 seconds. So you're kind of like, oh man, we're worse than a goldfish. Now there's a competition going on, like, okay, I gotta focus. I can't be beaten out by a goldfish. So attention spans have actually gotten worse, over the years. I blame technology, but you can blame whatever you want. So it really takes an extra effort on our part to really pay attention. Let's turn in your Bible over to John chapter 4. Let's look at an example of Jesus really engaging and paying attention to, in one of his interactions with someone. And this is in particular the Samaritan woman at the well. So in John chapter 4, starting in verse 4, and I'll read verses 4 through 14, it says, "Now he had to go through Samaria. So he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about the 6th hour." See, so even here, you can share your faith even when you're tired, even when you're in the middle of the day and you're dead tired. So that's a good thing. Verse 7, when a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink?" For Jews did not associate with Samaritans. Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." "Sir," said the woman, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did his sons and his flocks and herds?" Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give him will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life." And the conversation continues to go on in different, it's a great conversation. So if you haven't read that in a while, go back and read through the whole thing. But let's point out some things here with Jesus. Jesus was very engaging. He paid attention. He used little things to get conversations going, like sitting next to a water fountain and saying, "Hey, can I have a drink?" Be a little bit awkward in our day because you can drink your own water. But the bottom line is Jesus found different ways to get a conversation going through little details, even about this woman's life. And he says he knows that she was there by herself. And later on he goes to tell her, "Well, go call your husband," because he knew that was going to spark more of a conversation, and it did. The woman later on goes on to talk about just her religious past, and how feeling distanced by the Jews, and And Jesus explains that a little bit more. And Jesus was able to relate to her in so many great ways, even though he said some difficult things. But he was able to have an impact on her, and such a great impact that she actually goes and evangelizes a whole town as a result of just this one conversation with Jesus. So really connecting with people through paying attention, being engaging in conversations, not disengage, watching where your eyes are looking, making sure that you're making eye contact with people. Here's some practicals: being engaging, learning how to get conversations going and keep conversations going. Jesus initiated the conversation here and started off with water, and he threw in a spiritual, he brought spirituality into it really quickly. If you would ask me, how to give you living water, some say he could have jumped the gun, but Jesus knew what he was doing. He's being deliberate because that's where he wanted the conversation to go. And so we got to learn how to be better at growing and getting conversations going and keeping conversations going. I think being present at the time and not just waiting until our time to speak, but really engaging, listening to people and what they're saying, and not really focusing on what we're going to say next, because we're trying to understand what the person in front of us is trying to say. Asking questions as a result of that. Paying attention to body language, whether someone's sitting back with their arms folded or whatever it is that they're doing. Paying attention to those details to be able to adjust. Okay, are you pulling back a little bit? Are you, how do you feel about what I just said? You seem to kind of, get a little bit distant there. Or eyes looking down and person looking guilty. Things like that, but paying attention, but really looking at people. Eye contact. You don't want to be weird by just kind of staring in someone's eyes. That's awkward. But really just engaging people, looking them in the eye. You have nothing to hide. Listening is more than being quiet. It's really quietening your mind. We can speak at the rate of 125 words per minute. But the human mind is capable of understanding more than that. It's capable of understanding up to 400 words a minute. But what that really means is that we can be listening to someone, but 75% of our mind can be off on somewhere else, on our to-do list or on what's going on with the people around us or the environment around us. So it really takes an effort on our part to quiet all that stuff that could be going on, and really focusing on the person that's there in front of us. Now let's switch gears a little bit, and let's talk about connecting people to the scriptures through asking great questions. Here's another fact. People learn better and are more connected to the Bible when they are asked questions rather than just being lectured to. So let me repeat that. People learn better when they're asked questions and they're forced to think a little bit rather than just being given the information. Here's a quote that I found on a website on critical thinking. It says, "Thinking is not driven by answers, but by questions." So if we want to get someone to think, we got to ask questions. So we'll end here with just a few pitfalls, 5 pitfalls to just telling people what the scriptures mean. Pitfall number 1, the person becomes dependent on you for reading the Bible. And with this, really, people get enamored with these great insights that we can have. And when they go back home to read their Bible, they feel like, oh, well, I can't get the great stuff that I got during the Bible studies. So they kind of give up on reading the Bible on their own, and they focus on just coming to the studies to learn things. So a person becomes dependent when we just give them the information. Pitfall number 2 is the person misses the thrill of getting it. Just that excitement of, I see it, I understand what it's saying, and just the excitement that's a part of that. We actually rob people of that by just giving them the answer. But by asking great questions and having people have that aha moment, that actually develops a great love for the word in them. They're more fired up to read the Bible. Pitfall number 3 is you risk becoming arrogant, becoming seen as just the know-it-all. You know everything, so what am I here for, basically? Pitfall number 4, you risk becoming lazy. It's easier to tell someone what the answer it is than to learn to ask great questions. So we can actually become lazy in our thinking as a result of that. And pitfall number 5 is, and the last one here, is you end up actually more in the dark about a person's heart because you don't know what's going on. Because you've been giving them the answers, you really don't know what's going on inside here. So you leave a study really unsure as unsure as do they get it, or do they understand what I'm coming from, or are they ready to live this out? How do they feel about it? We don't know those things because we've just kind of given them the answers. Rather, what we need to do is learn how to ask great questions. I'm going to post a picture, two pictures actually. The purposeful question wedge that I've talked about before, but basically asking questions that start off in a general sense and then get more specific and narrow. So it's really an upside down. It's called a wedge because it's an upside down triangle, and there's an application with that as well. So really use these pictures that I'm going to put up as tools for yourself to learn how to really ask great questions, and which is a skill that needs to be practiced and developed. So both of these things have to do with really connecting with people. The first thing we talked about was connecting with people through paying attention to the small details and really connecting and engaging with people. And then the second thing we talked about here was connecting with people through asking great questions. To really get people to really think and understand, and really develops a thrill and excitement to read the Bible and to learn. But it does require some effort on our part as to learn how to ask great questions. So that concludes the study thought. Now we'll get into the discipleship study.